Good morning, Kingsley community. Pastor Colleen Wehrman here, coming to you with another daily devotion for Thursday, March 18th, 2021. Again, using the Ignatian Workout for Lent by Tim Muldoon. So, we are going to be on the new theme, I Hurt Because I Love. We did the triumphal entry yesterday, and today we're going to do exercise 22, foot washing. Comes from the Gospel of John 13, 1 through 5, and 12 through 15. Now before the festival of Passover, Jesus knew that his hour had come to depart from this world and go to the Father. Having loved his own who were in the world, he loved them to the end. The devil had already put it into the hearts of Judas, son of Simon Iscariot, to betray him. And during supper, Jesus, knowing that the Father had given all things into his hands, and that he had come from God and was going to God, got up from the table, took off his outer robe, and tied a towel around himself. Then he poured water into a basin and began to wash the disciples' feet and to wipe them with the towel that was tied around him. After he had washed their feet, had put on his robe, and had returned to the table, he said to them, "Do you know what I have done to you? You call me teacher and Lord. You are right, for that is what I am. So if I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you also ought to wash one another's feet. For I have set you an example that you also should do as I have done to you." So Tim writes, John's account of the foot washing, unique among the Gospels, is one of the clearest directions about how to be a follower of Jesus. It is hard to miss the symbolism here. Washing others' feet means being in a humble position of service. One of the most striking actions in the early life of Pope Francis was his decision to wash the feet of several inmates at a juvenile detention center. "I must be at your service," he said. He took Jesus' command quite literally, but also used the opportunity to offer a comment on what it means to be of service, to be ready to find those who are at the margins in order to manifest Christ-like love. Usually, the foot washing ceremony performed on Holy Thursday is done in a church with members of the community. Francis used this old practice to recall for us that Christ's mission was not primarily in the temple, it was out in the world among lepers, prostitutes, and tax collectors. When I was at our Michigan annual conference of United Methodist Churches, our bishop, before our current bishop, Deborah Kesey, she would commission or ordain send out ordinands, and so she would gather them together, and there was a ceremony, but she actually got down and washed their feet. It was pretty cool. Jesus' action, Tim writes, was performed among the 12 he had chosen to be his closest associates, those who would carry his mission to the rest of the world. Yet it took place in the eye of most public humiliation, his arrest and crucifixion. There is a missionary dimension to Jesus' foot washing, a kind of altar baptism. He washes the feet of those he is sending out into the world to continue the work he has begun, preaching the good news of God's love, manifest in Jesus' own willingness to suffer death for the sake of the world's salvation. And then he says, will you join in that mission? Will you let Jesus wash your feet? And will you wash the feet of others? I'm in a group of clergy studying Leading with a Limp, which is a book on leadership. And it talks about how leaders usually have to bring people together to have a discussion when there's a conflict on two opposing sides. And you bring them together and you talk through it and you work through it. And then what happens? One would think, oh, it's a happy day. Everybody's happy. Oh, no. You usually get attacked from both sides. So that's servant leadership, is you have to learn to serve others. And in the meantime, like Jesus, you will suffer. Everybody sign up to be a leader now. Hurry up. Get her done. Moses was a servant leader, and there were many times he was attacked by his own people. Remember when Moses was out in the wilderness and God had continued to provide water for the Israelites? I did a paper on this in seminary. It was complaint, God's provision. You know, it was like the people follow God, they disobey, they complain, and then God provides. And it's repetitive. So he gets water for them, and then I don't know how long, probably 3 days later, They're complaining again. And so bad did they complain to Moses that they said to him, is this why you brought us out of Egypt, so that we could die here in the desert? We better go back to Egypt. We ought to have gone back to Egypt and been slaves and been beat and be abused than to sit out here and die in the desert. They had forgotten that God had provided for them. So Moses, the one who didn't want to be a leader to begin with, was called and knew what it meant to be a servant leader. And then there were times when Moses got angry. Remember when Moses decided he was just going to shut the people up and hit the rock instead of waiting for God to get them the water in his timing? He was told specifically by God what to do, and he didn't do it. He did what he wanted to do because he was so sick of the people. The stiff-necked people, like God called them, which means stubborn. And so that was what got Moses into trouble, and he was not able to enter the promised land because of that disobedience. So what I'm saying is, if you want to be a leader, if you want to be a follower of Christ, and being a leader means you influence others. So if you have an influence as a mother or a father or in your church or whatever it is, you're a leader when you influence others. So are you going to do it with servant leadership? Are you willing to wash their feet when they disagree with you? Or are you just ready to fight like Moses? I ain't going to get you in the promised land. Thank God for Jesus. So our prayer is, imagine that Jesus is washing your feet. Are your feet tired from walking all day? Hot and gritty, full of aches and pains? Imagine how it feels for Jesus to hold your feet, the relief of the clean water, the comfort of the towel. What emotions are you feeling? Do you say something to Jesus while this is happening? When your eyes meet, what do you say? All I know is when our bishop washed the feet of the ordinands, they barely met eye contact with her because they were so humbled by her humble service. Because to wash feet, you got to get down on your hands and knees, and kind of like which Pope was that? That went to Pope Francis, into the inmates and washed their feet. So it's very humbling, I would think. And they do it because it reminds them that they are servant leaders as well, and they're calling others to follow Jesus. And to do that means we need to be servant leaders. Everybody wants to be a leader. Everybody wants to take their power and use it and wield it over people. That doesn't work. You don't get anybody that follows that way. Servant leadership. You get in the mud with them, you help them out, you show them the way, and a lot of times you get attacked along the way. I didn't write this. I didn't write about Moses. Moses wrote about Moses. Well, most of it anyway. If you are a caregiver, perhaps of a child or elderly person, use an opportunity when you are in physical contact with him or her to be an opportunity for prayer. That's your action. Maybe you do actually... Oh my goodness. Allergies. Maybe you do actually wash feet or hands. If so, ask God to bless your hands. If you do not have such an opportunity, seek out a volunteer opportunity that allows you to use your hands to lovingly serve others. Notice the way that using your body in service to another brings attentiveness to your prayer. So your action is to find an opportunity where you can have physical contact with someone and offer prayer. Of course, safe contact. Or serve with your hands. So there's lots of home improvement service work that can be done. There's lots of organizations that do that. Freedom Builders is one. I know there's many. We have one at the church, but we don't do a lot of building because we just do a lot of helping. But sometimes we do small things, like decks or something that is not too difficult for the people. That's called the Kingsmen Ministry. But there's all kinds of things that you can get involved in. So if you're handy with your hands, do that. Handy with hands might be teaching in Sunday school or going down and showing the kids how to knit or cross stitch. That could be a cool way to let the leaders take a break, and you get to teach them something you know how to do with your hands. It could be as simple as praying with someone, which is not simple, but it is a good thing. So that is our service action today, that we are called to be servant leaders, and we are to continue what Jesus started, which was to be a servant leader, wash feet, use our hands, use our feet, use our heart to serve others, and see how that changes us. I hope that was helpful for you. This weekend, Sunday at 9 a.m. in person, and also on Facebook Live here, we'll offer another worship service, and it is continuing our sermon series, How Sweet the Sound, from Craig Grishel's church in California, lifechurch.com, using his idea, not his sermons, because he preaches those. I preach my own. But the idea of taking hymns, learning about the stories about the hymns, and the theological basis behind some of these hymns. So far we've looked at Amazing Grace, What a Friend We Have in Jesus, and this week we're going to look at I'll Fly Away, which was a gospel hymn. And who wrote it and what was that all about? It is the most recorded gospel hymn, 5,000 recordings, so 5,000 different renditions of this and recordings of this hymn. That's a lot. So we'll learn a little bit about that, and we'll learn about what that writer had in mind. The theology we're looking at is from 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, which is talking about the return of Christ, what happens at the return of Christ. So we'll get a little bit into prophecy, talking about the prophecy about the end times of Jesus, and we'll also talk a little bit about the parousia, which I believe is the Greek for Jesus' return, the return of Christ. So, yeah, that's all I know. And don't forget, we have an Easter egg hunt this Saturday at Brownson Park, right in Kingsley, right by the library. Come and register at 1:30, and the egg hunt is promptly at 2, and it's over in 10 minutes. So bring your bag, bring your kids. It's outside, so it should be fairly safe. Wear your mask if you want, and come on over. So if you know any little ones, it's for kids from little bitties up through 10 years old. And we got lots of prize giveaways, lots of cool stuff for parents. And so 1:30, Brownson Park, this Saturday, March 20th, 1:30, doors open, 2 o'clock, egg hunt. Hopefully 2:30, we all go home. It's supposed to be a nice weekend, so come on out. I'll see you then. Bye-bye.